Kevin, we have a quorum.
Hello, Victoria? Hello?
Hello?
Okay. Yeah, I tried to do it through the Zoom app, and like a lot of times, I messed it up. So I'll just be calling in this way. We've got 9 people in the meeting or so.
Yep, 10.
10. All right. We have a quorum.
Yes.
Okay. And it is 5 o'clock, correct?
Yes.
All right. Okay. That being said, you can go ahead and start recording.
Okay, it's recording.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Kevin.
Good evening. We have a quorum present, so I will call the meeting of the Freetown Conservation Commission to order. Before we get started, I must read the governor's order, hopefully for not too much longer. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people who may gather in one place, this meeting of the Freetown Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public can be found on the Town of Freetown website, freetownma.gov. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website or YouTube channel an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Okay. So, briefly before we get started, we do have quite a bit on our agenda tonight, so I would hope that everything can stay in an orderly fashion. Unfortunately, due to protocols, I am not side by side with Victoria, so there may be a little bit of delay as she keeps me in order. I will apologize before we get started. Unfortunately, our agenda, there was a posting issue last meeting. While the public hearings were posted appropriately and they were advertised appropriately, and even though we have had town council give us an opinion in the past that in certain circumstances, even if the agenda hasn't been posted, you could still have the meeting. I rather erred on the side of caution so that everybody would have an equal opportunity to see what was going on and not rely on just the public hearing notice. So again, I do apologize. So that being said, unless we have any other questions before we start, I will get started on the agenda. Okay, so if there are no other questions or comments or concerns, the first item we have on our agenda tonight is a request for certificate on compliance. This is for 0 Bullock Road in East Freetown. This would be the solar array, sometimes referred to as Algonquin. It's off of Algonquin Drive, down that way. Unfortunately, I was unable to get out there to do an inspection. I've talked with the applicant or their representative, and they are fine with this being continued to our next meeting date, which would be March 22nd. I will have Victoria send out an email should anybody be interested in going and doing an inspection. More than likely, it'll be next weekend sometime. Again, keeping in mind the COVID protocols and all. If if anybody wants to go, they can go on their own, or I will go out there. I'll make sure I get out there and Victoria will go too. Okay. So unless there's anybody here that's got any comments on that, we'll continue. Okay, the next item on our agenda, this is the continuation of a notice of intent. This is for 40 Braley Road in East Freetown. Before we move forward with this, folks, those that are interested parties to these public hearings going forward, typically we open the public hearing, we let the applicant make a presentation, and then we will open it up for the public and board members to ask questions if they have any. Victoria has the screen. If you are on screen and you would politely raise your hand and get attention, or just politely interrupt me at a convenient moment, just state your name for the record and we can ask questions. If you are interested in looking at the applications and you are interested in also looking at the plans, they are on the Town of Freetown's website, freetownma.gov. You go under boards and committees, scroll down to Conservation Commission. You'll see current Conservation Commission filings. If you click on that, it will show you on the in the right-hand margin, all the current filings and all the associated correspondence and plans and submittals. So unless anybody has any questions, I will try not to repeat that before every public hearing. So that being said, again, this is a continued notice of intent. It's a public hearing for 40 Braley Road. This is one of the three that we had called I called to order last week. Again, not having the agenda posted, and we did that so that the public hearing notices and the actual advertisement would still be valid and would not cause a further delay. So that being said, I will call this back to order, keeping in mind that there was no meeting, so there was no testimony or anything presented. It was simply, I called the meeting to order, continue these, and we closed the meeting. So that being said, I will call it back to order, and I will ask for a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing notice.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Thank you very much. If there's no further discussion, roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Keith Mello.
Aye.
Keith Mello, aye. Chris Mather with us?
No, he's not.
Okay. Kevin Damaris, aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, so we have somebody here from Zenith Engineering. Is it Niall Zager is here tonight to discuss this. This is a construction of a single-family home with a garage and a septic system.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Niall Zager from Zenith Consulting Engineers. We are here before you for the construction of a single-family home. Property is located on the corner of Braley Road and Edward G. Pena Lane, and it's approximately about 2.27 acres. There's an existing house on property, which is located close proximity to Braley Road and at the northeast portion of the property. The property is bounded by BVW wetland flags 1 through wetlands flag 10. And there's also a drainage ditch that runs inside of the BVW as well. Basically what we're doing is we're proposing the construction of a 3-bedroom single-family home with a detached 36 by 50 garage on a slab. The septic system is going to be located in the front of the property near Braley Road. It's going to be upgraded to meet the current Title V requirements. The property is also going to be serviced by town water. The home will be serviced by town water as it is currently. All work that is being done is going to be encapsulated in silt sock for erosion control measures, and all areas will be loamed and seeded to ensure stabilization once all work is complete. And that is really about it. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission has.
Okay, there's an existing structure there that's to be raised.
That is correct.
Yeah, I'm just reading it on the plan now. So
I can share the plan. If anybody will let me share the plan, I can share the plan and show it to everyone.
yeah, Victoria, can you let him do a screen share, I guess it's called?
Yes, 1 second.
Thank you. So Niles, I see you've got a dewatering detail. You want to explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so as you know, this is a fairly wet area, and water table is definitely a concern. Reason why that's the reason why the septic system is up out of the ground. The house is a walkout in the back, with a good amount of fill in the front, because of the high water table. So a dewatering basin, mainly when they're digging out for the foundation itself, if water is encountered, and they need to pump it out, what they'll do is they'll dig a kind of a temporary basin, encapsulate it in the silt sock, and it basically just gives the water a place to dissipate and no silt to enter into the wetland. So that way there won't be any disturbances had on site.
You should be able to
Right.
share now.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, so simply stated, rather than somebody putting a pump in a dirty water hole in the bottom of for your foundation and just pumping it right into the wetlands, this gives it some sort of filtration and allows it to settle out, naturally.
Can you guys see, can everyone see the plan?
I can
Yeah.
see now.
Thank you. So yeah, the existing home is currently here. It's shaded out, but this is the existing current home. Basically what we've done is we've slid the new home, proposed home back to meet the current zoning standards requirements. This is the proposed 36 by 50 detached garage here, with an associated driveway. Septic system is this area here. You see all the chambers there, and all these other lines. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a water service that runs in from Braley Road into the proposed unit as well. And all the other lines are essentially just the grading. I'm sorry. This is also the BVW here, so it goes from wetland flag 1 all the way up to wetland flag 10, and the limit of work is depicted in this either tree line or silt sock, depending on where it is. Again, most of this area is already cleared because it's an existing home now, but there is a little bit of vegetation clearing in the rear, fog grading, and the detached garage.
Okay. It's a good sized garage there, Niles.
Yes.
And I know you're only designing what your client is telling you to do. I noticed that it's 20 feet from the wetlands out back, and I'm just curious if there's a reason that it has to be there, or is there a way that we can maybe pull it a little bit further away? And secondly, I'm just curious how we're going to address the roof drainage on that garage, given its proximity. What we don't want is a downspout that just comes out and then starts just a road away to get down to the wetlands.
So there'll be the question about the size of the garage is that this gentleman stores. He has a couple vehicles that he works on for himself, and he wanted to make sure he had enough room. It's a two stall bay garage. And it's
I guess now, not to cut you off, at the end of the day, I'm not all that concerned about the purpose of it, right? It's a residential garage. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm just getting its size, so that means it has a big roof, and then it being that close, if we have a roof drain that goes down, I'm just wondering if there's a way that either can be moved a little bit, or if there's a way that can be, that if the runoff can be directed in a different direction via downspouts or whatever, or whether it can be put into a beehive or something along those lines.
Yeah, so I thought about the roof drain, but the problem is because of the height of the water table there, there's really not enough room to be able to make that work. Without bringing in, it would be doing more damage than good. I'd have to bring in probably about 4 feet of fill in that back area to make that work, which wasn't really the intent of the owner or the proposed owner. Sure. But we are providing the downspout with an overflow, and basically what we can do is we can create a pad where the overflow is to ensure that there's not going to be any erosion, because that's a very good question. We can absolutely add a a stone pad or something of that nature to ensure that it's going to dissipate properly and not just concentrate, in the flow and go right directly into the wetland.
Yeah, so, all right, so if we would just condition that, then, your client would be amenable to that. I think it's a good solution to the problem, though.
Great.
All right. Is there anybody here from the general public who has any questions, or anybody from the board that has questions?
I'm good, Kevin.
All right, excellent. Victoria, you don't see anybody raising their hand, right?
No, I don't.
Okay, perfect. All right, if there's no other questions, again, relatively straightforward. If the question of the house being moved to a different location is going to meet current setbacks and zoning, and it is a previously disturbed area, and it's continuing, and it's going to be maintained a residential use. So, again, not too much to do with conservation with the use, but just like to keep everybody clear on that. Okay, so that being said, if there is nothing else, then I'll entertain a motion. We close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
I'll make that motion.
Excellent.
I'll second it.
Motion's
Sorry,
been made and
Charlie.
supported. No, that's great. If there's no further discussion, roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Keith Mello.
Aye.
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Okay, so again, this being a notice of intent, and then I would entertain a motion that we accept the plans as submitted and approve the plans as submitted with the condition that at the downspout locations on the proposed garage while we're having, before I entertain that motion, Niles, would the same thing hold true for the dwelling?
That is correct.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion that we approve the plans as submitted with the condition that at all downspouts, that there be a downspout and rain pad installed to prevent any kind of further erosion down the line.
I'll make that motion.
Excellent.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Motion made and supported. There's no further discussion on the motion. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Keith Mello.
Aye.
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. So again, the board, just to reiterate, the board's given me permission to sign in their stead. So once this document is done and Victoria's got all the paperwork in order, we'll get it signed and get it back to you, okay?
Appreciate it.
All right. So next item on our agenda, number 3. So don't go too far, Niles. I believe you're on this one also. Excuse me. Sorry, folks. This is for a notice of intent filed for 125 South Main Street. This is for a construction of a multi-unit 55 and over project on South Main Street. Now, like I said, at 125 South Main Street. So again, this is one of those that we called to order at the last meeting. No testimony, no evidence was presented at the last meeting. So I will call it back to order and entertain a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing notice.
I'll make that motion. Keith?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Motion's made and supported. There's no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Keith Mello.
Aye.
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Okay, Niles, if you'd like to make a presentation, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Mr. Chairman, again, if at all possible, is there any way I can have permission to share my screen?
Yep,
Sure,
you already
Victoria,
have
let-
permission.
Oh, thank you.
Already have permission
Look at that.
granted. So again, folks, it's on our website. You can find it under Conservation Commission filing. Go ahead, Niles.
Thank you very much. All right, so this property is located at 125 South Main Street. It's approximately about 11.33 acres, and it's located in the P-Mud District, which is the proposed mixed-use overlay district. The wetlands that you see before you, which I will go to the existing conditions plan. The wetlands that you see before you here were actually flagged by Bob Gray of Sebacia and actually approved through an ORAD issued by the Freetown Conservation Commission. All noted on the plan as well. The property is not located within ACEC area of critical environmental concern, is not located within any natural heritage areas, is also located within flood zone AE 26 and a flood zone X as well. The Rattlesnake Brook, which is depicted here, as I move my cursor, kind of bisects the parcel, as you can see. So this is the entire parcel. Rattlesnake Brook is here. The portion of the work on the property that we're proposing is going to be on this side of the property. We are proposing, let me go to the next sheet. This isn't a layout sheet of the development. We're proposing 2 36-unit apartment buildings, which are to be age restricted of 55 plus. So again, that's a benefit in the PMUD district that you can get extra units based off of the age restriction of 55 plus. There are a total of about 164 parking spaces that we're providing. There's basically one garage space per unit for the 36, so 72, and then one driveway space for in each unit as well. And then there's 20 additional visitor spaces here. So it's 10 here and 10 also here. Stormwater. So this is the grading, kind of drainage layout overall view. So basically there's 6 catch basins that are going to capture all the water and direct it through drainage piping into the 2 detention basins that you see. This is the larger of the 2 detention basins here that overflows and then goes into this infiltration catch basin or detention basin, I'm sorry, here as well. And then after a 100-year storm event, it overtops and then it goes into the existing drainage where it currently goes out into South Main Street in the piping and then discharges out into the town layout. There's 3 different what's called first defense units in the catch basins that we're proposing. Basically what those do is they treat stormwater, TSS removal, total suspended solids, as well as water quality volume. They're a really good unit. They're the precast unit that they fit inside the catch basin. And they're a standard unit that we've used many times and work very well. The basins that you see have been sized to meet the 100-year storm event, meaning they can handle 7 inches of rain in a 24-hour span for all the area contributing to it, including all the proposed development. All the work is also located within all the work that's located within the flood zone, which the flood zone is depicted with this black dotted line here. All the AE 26 is all would be to the, I guess, the west of that line for the most part. It's all to the west of it, and that's all in the flood zone. All the work that we're proposing is we are meeting all the compensatory storage for that work. And that's all been compensated for. There's actually calculations on this sheet as well that show the proposed fill volumes to each elevation, as well as the cut volumes to ensure that there's no flooding impacts downstream. There is, as far as erosion control, so this is kind of more the important. This is the main important plan for as far as conservation goes, and what you'll really be concerned with as a commission. Is all the erosion control measures. It has all the details as far as the silt sack, the silt sock, dewatering basin, the entrance pad. So basically what we have is the limit of work is this line here, this black dotted line here that runs up and then runs along. The erosion control is all downstream here and is depicted on the plan here. There is also a construction entrance pad, which we have a detail here. And essentially what that's for is just during construction to ensure that when heavy equipment or any equipment is coming in and out, that it mitigates the amount of silt or construction, dirt or anything of that nature that get out onto South Main Street. And there's also measures in place as far as sweeping and things of that nature that the contractor has to meet to ensure that there's no danger to the public. The dewatering basin is depicted here. This site, as far as water table goes, is definitely, the last site that I spoke about for that 40 Braley Road was definitely more of a concern with water table. This is a much sandier water table, is definitely not as much of an issue on this site. But again, you never know if you're going to encounter it. And if we do, we've proposed, we provided this dewatering basin that the contractor will have to utilize in the case, in the event that water table or groundwater is encountered. What else? Let's see. There's silt sacks. So this detail here, these silt sacks are units that get put in, or sacks that get put in the catch basins during construction to ensure that any silt that's run off site during, while the site's still being stabilized is captured and minimizes what actually gets into the detention basin and into the piping and drainage system altogether. And again, so that's kind of an overall, basically the major thing as well is that this site has been reviewed and approved by the planning board, as well as their consultant EPG Environmental Partners Group multiple times, and for multiple iterations as far as layout and changes to the plan have been made in order to make sure that we comply with the PMUD and stormwater and any other applicable regulations, Wetlands Protection Act, things of that nature. So this has been sent out for review. Planning board, they've reviewed it for stormwater, which would be the main concern for conservation. But they've also reviewed it for zoning. They've reviewed it for site plan review. They've reviewed it for the PMUD district. They reviewed it for pretty much everything that's that's applicable here. So the commission can at least feel comfortable that the plans that you see before you have been thoroughly reviewed and gone through, and what you see before you feel very confident in. So besides that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission has.
Okay, thank you. Very thorough. I will echo that yes, in fact, this did receive multiple reviews of the planning board. We have on the town website is the reviews. They may be under the planning board because it was more for planning board as a whole, because that was the final. Typically, Concom and planning board are holding these public hearings at the same time, so we would have been privy, to the reviews as they were going on. But ultimately, we share the review and we share the results with both boards. Saves time and money. That being said, does anybody from the general public have any questions or comments? Victoria, nobody's waving?
No.
Okay. Anybody from the board have any questions or comments on this?
I'm good. So I'm understanding that the site has already been reviewed a number of times by environmental partners, correct?
That is correct, Charlie. And while the original plans that came in was a bit of a different design on the building, so there was an initial review there. Applicant changed their mind on the building design, so it changed the location. It went through further review, and I know there were a few discussions relative to the stormwater management, and I know that through consultation with EPG that Niles Outfit had to make some minor changes to accommodate that. I think it was some drainage areas by the road and some other things. But at the end of the day, it was given a full bill of health, if you will, relative to stormwater management and the like.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. So is there any other, we have got, Niles, just for the point of record, we have a DEP file number on this, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was gonna, and just so that everybody knows that. And it is not within natural heritage, so there's no concerns there. And while it is being constructed in some parts in the flood zone, all the appropriate necessary engineering things have been done to accommodate for that too, correct?
That's correct. The buildings are being situated in a manner that they're not going to be, they're going to be filled up to be not in the flood zone in all areas. We're creating the cut areas in order to provide what's called compensatory storage to ensure that there's not going to be any flood. You're basically making sure that there's no flooding impacts downstream from where our work is being conducted. So the idea is if we fill in a flood zone that could potentially impact somebody downstream, and we don't want to have that, we're not allowed to do that. So we've provided calculations in order to provide to show that we meet those requirements.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions, again, me serving on the planning board, I have a level of comfort having looked at this a number of times over and knowing it was reviewed from EPG. And again, ordinarily we do these concurrently, so we would have all been on the same page. But if anybody has anything else to add, if not, then I'll entertain a motion that we close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Motion made and supported. For discussion, roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Keith Mello.
Aye.
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Passes unanimously. Okay, so, it's interesting. This is the first one that we've had in town down at the PMUD, and there's been a lot of interest from local seniors and all in this project. And it being a 55 and over, I think it's generated a bit of excitement in town. Not that the Conservation Commission should consider those things, but I just think it's interesting or neat to recognize that because it is our first one in town. Serviced by, and important to note too, it's going to be serviced by town water and town sewer. I can't remember if you mentioned that, Niles, but it's, so that's why if you're looking, there's no septic system on site, which is another plus, given that it's in the flood zone and the necessary evils of constructing a septic system within the flood zone. So if there's nothing else, then I will entertain a motion that we accept the plans as submitted. And that's it. There's no other conditions that I would impose upon this project at this point in time.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's made, supported. If there's no further discussion on the motion, I'll take a roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Keith Mello.
Aye.
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Passes unanimously. Just like the last time, we'll get this thing signed up, the approval written up, and we'll get it sent out to you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Have a great night.
You don't have anything else for us tonight, do you?
I do not. I'm going home.
Good. Okay. All right. Yeah, you do that, and I wish. All right. I wish you a good night. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Take care.
All right. Take care. So Adam is with us, correct, Victoria?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes,
what I'm
I'm
going to
here.
do. Hi, Adam.
Hi.
Hi. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take chairman's prerogative, and I apologize to those that I'm going to be skipping over, but we have our review engineer here, and they're only going to be here for items 7 and 8, if I'm not mistaken. Correct, Adam? That would be 12 Forge Road and 41 Water Street.
That's correct.
Okay. So I would, unless there's a serious objection or any of the applicants or their representatives have a timeliness issue for this evening's meeting, I would take the chairman's prerogative here and take the agenda out of order so that we can get on with items number 7 and 8 respectively, so that our review engineer doesn't need to sit around for the other stuff. So if there's no objections, then we will get right to it. So item number 7 we have is a continued notice of intent. This is an item that we have already called to order. We've already opened the public hearing. This is for 12 Forge Road, a proposed ground-mounted solar array, and I will call that public hearing back to order. The applicants are here, I imagine.
See Chris
Anyone?
King on from Atlantic.
Who is that?
Chris King is on, and from Atlantic, and Ryan Young is also on.
Okay, perfect. So again, folks, if you're an interested party, you can go to our website and you will see the 12 Forge Road, and you can look at the revised plans. This project has been presented to us and has been going through peer review and then an additional peer review. And my understanding is there's been progress made through the peer review, but there may be, in fact, a couple of outstanding items. And I believe the applicant wishes to give us a brief update and talk about that. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. This is Chris King with Atlantic Design Engineers. I'm here on behalf of the applicant this evening, CVE, and with me is, as noted, Ryan Young. You are correct, Mr. Chair, where we have been working with EPG Group, I believe, and I will let Adam speak. I certainly don't want to speak for him, but I believe we're on the goal line. We were in receipt of a review letter from the EPG Group that was dated February 17th. We had since revised the information. Really, the project remains unchanged from what you folks have seen in the past. We've basically clarified some stormwater technical issues, which I believe we've, for the most part, resolved. I know there was some question regarding the depth to groundwater, which we confirmed on site via test pits. One of the changes in the last, that is reflected on the last set of plans that was submitted yesterday is basically we had a series of perimeter infiltration trenches, and due to the depth to groundwater, one of those trenches was moved roughly 40 feet or so uphill, if you will, so that we were able to provide that minimum of 2 feet of separation to groundwater. Other than that, we've added a intermittent stream that is located off property that we weren't able to delineate because it's off property, but we were able to get a surveyed location of the center line, so we have an accurate location of that. We were asked to add that along with the associated buffer zone to the plans, which we have done. But other than that, the plans remain the same. I know that EPG has recommended adopting some conditions of approval that the applicant is certainly amenable to. We feel that any outstanding issue is certainly going to be resolved. As you know, EPG is reviewing really on behalf, I know it's for both boards, but it was initiated through the planning board, in which we have a hearing with, next week. But we would, respectfully suggest that the information submitted to the commission to this point from the standpoint as far as protecting the interest to the act and the bylaw, I feel like we've demonstrated that this plan certainly does that. And I think that, barring, getting some additional technical information that, again, isn't going to change the project in any way, shape, or form, we would ask that the commission consider, voting on this project this evening. I don't know if it can be conditioned upon receiving a letter from the EPG Group indicating that all items have been closed. Again, I know that you'd feel more comfortable getting some input from Adam, so I'll turn it over quickly to him because I think what he's going to say, matters the most. But I think we're very close. I think we're in certainly a positive trajectory. We don't intend to change that. And I think that resolve is very in the near future. And so again, we're asking that the commission, be willing to render a decision this evening, hopefully. So if there are any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I know you're just receiving this information yesterday, but again, with exception to a lot of the stormwater information, really the only, and I'll use the term loosely, the only substantial plan changes, if you will, really is, again, relocating one of the infiltration trenches roughly 40 feet and then adding that offsite system.
Okay. Adam, just to that was a lot of information. There was a lot of good info. So I appreciate that. Thank you. So to be clear, we received your response yesterday to, and in fairness, many of the items on the last peer review letter dated February 17th were closed. There were some open items, and I'm assuming that your response had tried to address most of those. So we have not gotten a closeout on those open items. I do also note that there are, in certain issues, maybe requests for conditions, and usually those would be with the stormwater prevention plan and some other things. There was an item, and I'm trying to find it again. There's a lot of information. It's an 11-page document relative to your infiltration trenches, where the details showed just the filter fabric on top, and the note was typically there's some sort of pea stone or other sort of stone that is placed on top of that. And I'm
Sure.
wondering if that item was also addressed.
Yes, I apologize. That has also been, we've, excuse me, added a 2-inch layer of 3/8-inch pea stone. And again, just pointed out that filter fabric is exactly kind of what Adam was getting to with the temporary measure, where during construction, until the site is stabilized, we ask that fabric be overlapped across the top. And again, this would, we're adding the pea stone, but we'll still have the fabric encapsulate everything over the top. And then once the site is stabilized, the contractor shall go back and cut that away, exposing basically the fresh pea stone with no chance for sediment clogging.
I got it.
But we've added the pea stone, and that note requiring going back and cutting that is on the detail sheet as well.
Okay. So that being said, I will in fact turn it over to Adam. And again, in fairness, Adam, right, you received this, if I'm not mistaken, their response letter dated February 25th, but you received this yesterday, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And again, looking at your response letter, typically I look at your response and not the applicant's. I do peruse that, but oftentimes that's a back and forth that just clouds my mind. I like the way that EPG does it. Item is open or item is closed. So have you had a chance to review and is there anything outstanding in there that would be an impediment to us moving forward tonight?
We've had a chance to at least skim through their responses. There is at least one item that we are still a little concerned about, which is the standard 3 infiltration requirement. It is granted for a solar field that's mostly, grass with just a few small pads. The infiltration requirement isn't significant, but we've seen a higher level of compliance on other solar projects. And so that aspect remains open. Based on their other written responses, it seems like they have made progress on a lot of the other fronts. And then there's a few comments which are primarily suggested approvals or suggested conditions of approval that we're in agreement on.
Right. So to get clarity on the one item that you say that there still may be some conversation needed, could you just put it in layman's terms so a guy like me can understand it?
I will try. So standard 3 is about maintaining recharge to groundwater in the post-development state, similar to the pre-development state. Mm-hmm. And so if you've got like a big parking lot or whatever, it's clear that you would lose a lot of infiltration. And so there's a calculation that's required to determine the amount of recharge volume you have to get, amount of water you have to get back into the ground. And they provided that calculation in the second round of documents. And they said that they would get that through the infiltration basin or the detention basin. But the detention basin is very close to groundwater, so it's not clear that it would drain. And so they've done the test pits. They've shown that the groundwater is pretty close to that level of the bottom of the basin. So there is some question still as to whether that would really work and be in compliance with the regulations.
Okay. So the bottom line is the recharge, right? The percolation of the water, back into the groundwater, if you will. And what you're saying is that the groundwater is already at an elevation close to the bottom elevation of the detention pond, and therefore may not percolate and recharge the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, and that's the standard makes it clear that there should be a minimum of 2 feet separation, which there's not in that basin.
Okay. So,
This is Chris with it.
Sure. Go ahead, Chris, please.
I apologize. This is Chris with Atlantic. And so I would like to append that with saying that, I don't disagree with anything Adam has just stated. I think it is worth noting that the groundwater in that area, I mean, that's a pretty large basin. So just moving north to south, the groundwater was actually observed to be 7 feet below the existing grade at the northern end and 3 feet below grade at the southern end, roughly 2 to 3 feet. We considered the most conservative being the highest depth throughout the entire basin bottom. So there is a chance we will actually have separation. As Adam noted, the intent is to, we're given a set of calculations, and that's what DEP has determined is the best approximation of the pre-development conditions. And so, it actually surprised me. The project like this, typically there's a lot of hands on deck, for lack of a better saying. And so typically a project like this, which is not uncommon to most projects, you have a trench that's located roughly 25 feet away from the equipment pad itself, located down the hill, if you will. Because really the only addition of impervious area is associated with the equipment pads. And so to offset that from a recharge standpoint, you typically have a trench that's 2 feet wide, 1 feet deep, and anywhere from 20 to 25 feet long is roughly the sweet spot for pads of this size. And those are located immediately down gradient. Based on the calculations, that provides the volume of recharge that's required. And so there are, if the depth of groundwater prohibits us from providing that recharge in the basin bottom itself, I would like to offer that we be able to certainly install those trenches down gradient of the pads to be able to provide that. I mean, this is a very large site with depths to groundwater ranging, like I said, anywhere from 7 to 2.5 feet. And so there are areas where we're going to be able to provide that recharge. Similar to other projects, which we're privy to the information being of record, is that there have been conditions of approval for other projects, basically making this issue subject to further inspection at the time of construction by EPG. So we could have a condition of approval that would require the contractor to notify the town and or its designee that they're going to be installing or basically coming to the point on the install of the infiltrating BMP where we would like, to confirm the separation to groundwater provided. And that can be easily done with the excavator that's being used to do the install. And we could confirm the depth of the groundwater and also by default, the fact that we're providing the recharge. I mean, the volume that we're talking about is very insignificant in an instance like this. And as Adam noted, there is a provision that allows a project like this where you have acres and acres of grassed open area, and the only increase in impervious you have are these isolated equipment pads. And really, the site as it stands, even though you're constructing, 5, 10 small equipment pads in the scope of the 15 acres or 11 acres or whatever the case the site may be, the site isn't experiencing any difference in its ability to recharge because all the pads are surrounded by grass. And so, but despite that fact, we're still, we would still be amenable to meeting that standard as we do it quite often. And like I said, it can be in a couple of different forms. And I think this is something that, could easily be captured in a condition of approval that simply states that we provide the separation to groundwater and that be confirmed at the time of construction. The applicant would, set aside funds available so the EPG could do it. We would agree to give them 48 hours, 72 hours notice, whatever they're looking for. And they would confirm the depth to groundwater and thereby meeting standard number 3.
Well, I will tell you this. You're a very good advocate for your client there. And that was a lot of technical information there, which oftentimes gives people like us popsicle headaches because it's tough to follow, to be honest with you, right? I'm just being totally honest with you, right? All volunteer board here that doesn't have the formal training that you guys do, which is why we send you to EPG, and these types of conversations should be taking part in that at that level. I appreciate, though, the fact that you gave us all that information. So I'm going to boil it down to this question. If it were to be conditioned, and then you get out there and EPG gets out there and inspects it, and now it's not. Now you're within the 2 feet, what happens then?
So I would say that personal experience, and again, my experience, what is that worth to anybody? Quite frankly, probably not a lot. But maybe Adam could speak favorably to it. But based on what we're seeing in the test pit results, there are areas where it is possible, and I think it is. I would never say it's 100% possible. But it's as close as one could be that we're able to meet that standard by providing recharge somewhere else on the site. And that would be something that we would figure out at the beginning stages of construction, so that we're not caught holding the bag down the line after half of the racking is installed and it's determined, well, wait a minute, that spot will be better. Well, wait a minute, we already have racking installed over there. Figuring that out at the preliminary stages is, I think, fundamental. And so, that could even be added in as well.
Yeah,
I think that
not to cut you off, and I
sure.
Again, the depth of your answer is outstanding. That's not what I'm saying. Just to simplify it, should that happen in field condition, you would then look for another area to provide recharge so that you would then meet the stormwater standard, right?
It's not uncommon, and like I said, the only reason why
Chris, I'm sorry, I understand it's not what I'm asking you is, you're asking us to condition something to say, okay, go out and inspect it, and I'm saying, what are the options then if you find out, worst case scenario for you and your client, that you are within within 2 feet of the groundwater, and you're telling me that you would then provide through a plan and through some sort of approval through EPG, and I don't disagree that there have been other situations. I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is it that you're offering in that point in time would be to, at the actual concrete pads, to provide additional recharge so that you can meet stormwater 3 standard. Is that in a nutshell?
Yes, we would implement a solution more localized to the concrete pads themselves. And it could include just raising the whole area and basically constructing the trench, as close to existing grade as possible and having the 2 feet of separation. We could make a stone bed that has a shallower depth than the 1 foot we're currently proposing. There's, several different solutions.
There are myriad options for you. And again, not to cut you off, but there are myriad options at that point in time. And so I'd like to ask Adam then, and again, any other board member has a question, please interrupt. Adam, is in fact, as the applicant stated, do we have, or will they have options at that point in time? And do you agree that those proposed options would meet the standard?
I believe that they would likely have an option that could meet the standard. However, I would note a couple things that just based on what was said, I would say that the test pits that have been conducted, there was one where it showed it was the water was relatively deep, but there was also another series of test pits where they were previously planning to put some infiltration trenches, and then they found high groundwater, so they had to do additional testing elsewhere on site, and so they relocated the trenching accordingly. And in many cases, the groundwater is typically like 1 to 3 feet below grade. So I don't disagree that they could find an area. It's just a little odd that we don't have a plan yet showing a proposal for even a proposed area, and we don't have any test pits in, and since we don't know what that area is, we don't have test pits in that area to show where the infiltration will be. And we don't have calculations indicating the sizing of these things. So I don't disagree that it's doable, but there's a lot of typical information we don't yet have.
Okay. All right. And again, keeping in mind to everybody involved, and this includes the general public, right? We just got the response from the applicant yesterday or the day before. I'm unsure. So it was just put on the website just in the last couple of days. So I'm not even sure everybody's had an opportunity to look at it. Now, again, most items have been closed out, and there are some requests for conditions. Oftentimes when they are lengthy conditions and technical conditions of approval, we ask the applicant to provide us with a narrative, if you will, an official list of conditions for approval, so that we may approve that document also, and that gets recorded and all. It's tough to ask for a motion and then to start going through these things item by item while we're doing this, especially going off of a document that we've just seen. Is there any way, Chris, that you would be able to get some more information relative to those things and for Adam to review in the meantime? I understand that this has gone on for a while, and I understand that we've had some continuances for multiple reasons on both sides of the table. But with a complex project like this, and with the number of technical issues relative to stormwater management, we like to get that stuff squared away and to have it in a concise document, so we know what we're giving and granting waivers to, and what the conditions are, so that when the zoning enforcement official, or in this case it would be conservation commission, would look at it, they would know the conditions the special conditions that need to be met without having to go through a lot of other documents. So would you be amenable to providing us with a list of the waivers requested, or the conditions of approval, excuse me, more specifically? I agree that most of them are being recommended by EPG, that we in fact do make them conditions of approval, and you're right, we have done that in the past. But I think it would be important to have that document before final closeout on that. And if you could provide, I think if you could provide that to us by the next meeting on the 22nd, and include that condition for the EPG, with the money being put aside, that they go out there and witness the test pits, and that in fact at that time that you would be amenable to providing a plan that would have to be approved by EPG, as you stated earlier, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if you would be able to provide that to us.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We can.
Yeah.
I can draft up a list and then circulate it, and then if I've missed anything or misstated something in draft format, we can actually work together to finalize the conditions.
And the reason why I do that is because past experience has been, we try to do it and something gets missed, or a technical issue is not there, and then it's a back and forth. And so I just as soon get it from you folks, And then if it's the same, that's what we have through the review, and EPG says, yeah, that's the waivers that they talked, excuse me, the conditions that we had talked about and are amenable to, then I have no problem moving forward on this. Is there anybody here from the general public that has any questions or comments? Again, keeping in mind that this is specifically a public hearing about the wetlands and the Wetlands Protection Act. So just politely request that you would keep those questions to the Wetlands Protection Act. Anybody waving at us, Victoria?
No.
Okay. So I don't want to speak for the rest of the board members, but to me, my feeling is it's just a couple. If we can get that document and a couple of those outstanding items addressed that we talked about as best you can, and put it together for us, by consensus, I think I'll ask the board members if they're amenable to that, and then we can move forward with it at our next meeting.
Kevin, my input was that I would concur with your reasoning there.
All right, thank you. So, all right, if you provide that to us next time, and just if you can lay out in writing what you said to us is specifically, relative to this question of the depth, excuse me, the distance to the water table, and everything else they talked about, that would be great, and I think we could very easily move forward on this next time.
Absolutely, we'd be happy to.
I appreciate that. Again, I appreciate your patience with this. But if it was easy, everybody would do it, I guess. So if there's nothing else to add, Adam, you don't have anything else to add, we'll get that narrative over to you as soon as we get it, and then we can go from there.
Sure. So we'll wait
Sure.
to receive an additional narrative and then review that.
Yeah, it's just going to be a list of the conditions that they would like us to approve. So it's going to mention the SWIP. It's going to mention a couple of other things, and on there. I just, again, having done a number of these in town, it's just finding it better that we have as much information in the conditions of approval, so that we can really, both sides' feet can be held to the fire when it comes to the approval the permit. So that would be my intent. All right. So if there's nobody else from the public or anybody else has anything else to add, I appreciate a lot of work going on both sides here. And again, I do appreciate the detail with which the applicant's engineer has gone into for us. I promise you, we're understanding most of it, but you start talking some other things, and that's a discussion for you in EPG. So I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to March 22nd, 5 o'clock via Zoom.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and supported. There's no further discussion on the motion. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Keith Mello.
Aye.
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin DeMaster says aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. See you on the 22nd.
Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, you're welcome. All right. Next on our agenda would be item number 8. This is a continued notice of intent for 41 Water Street. I will call that continued notice of intent back to order to get everybody a bit up to date here. We do have the applicant's representative here.
Yes.
John's here. Okay. So where we stand on this, unfortunately, we are in the notice of intent process, and we're in peer review with this. And if I'm not mistaken, there's two things. There's a need for some increased alternative analysis, if I'm not mistaken. Additionally, there's also a need for an increase in funds for peer review. That being said, subsequent to that, and I have to issue an apology. It's my responsibility as the conservation chairman to make sure that before we have a meeting and before we move forward on it, that the applicant has fulfilled their duties, if you will, relative to the application process. Unfortunately, I did not do that, and the request for determination was not advertised, and it was duly pointed out by a neighbor that that request for determination, even though it was for an emergency request to fix or to stabilize the stone wall, I failed to make sure that there was an advertisement. So that is my fault, and I do apologize to everybody involved. But that being said, subsequent to that, unfortunately, when the work was commencing on the emergency repair, if you will, through the request for determination, we had to issue an enforcement order because the RDA and a prior RDA that was filed even before the notice of intent to do work over there limited the amount of work. And unfortunately, what happened was that amount of work was exceeded. And we got calls of concern. I went down and met with the applicant engineer. Quite definitively, there was an exceedance of what the permit was for under the RDA, and subsequent to that, an enforcement action was taken. And part of that enforcement action is that there is to be no more work until you complete your notice of intent, and the enforcement order also requires you to stabilize in place and not move forward. So whether that takes care of the issue on the RDA not being advertised, I don't know legally. I know that we have some interested parties that have hired a counsel to review this, and they. So I don't know if that answers that, but at the end of the day, there's going to be no more work associated with that RDA due to the enforcement action. I've said a lot, John, but I'm going to give you an opportunity at least to explain maybe what happened and why we had to go out there and issue an enforcement order. I'm going to be honest with you. There's a lot of disappointment from the board when I brought that to their attention, and there's a lot of disappointment on my behalf. I never take things personal, but you know, when we're told on the one hand that it's going to be a smaller machine and most of the work's going to be done by hand, and then I show up and there are trees that are, you know, 40, 50 feet tall, 8-inch in diameter that were just wholesale knocked out of the ground, and the size of the machine, you could dig a swimming pool with it. And so in and of itself, that size of the machine would have done probably more damage and or work and disturbance than what was permitted under the RDA. So I guess we called you in to kind of give you a talking to, but at the same time, just maybe address how we're going to move forward with this. I know that, like I said, it's going through peer review right now, and there's an issue of outstanding funds relative to that. And so I'm wondering if you couldn't even address that too.
Sure. John D'Souza from North County Group. Yeah, we met out there and we kind of went through exactly what had happened out there, and the contractor that had started the work a day prior to us having the meeting out there to actually run through exactly how to stage and how to complete the work in a timely manner, because as was provided to the commission, we were going to do basically 20-foot segments of removal and rebuild in place with in kind, and it was supposed to be on a much smaller scale. And I believe the contractor got overzealous, and he thought that he was going to be able to replace 80 feet of wall out of whack, and doing so basically threw a monkey wrench into all the works, and basically everything that I've conveyed to the commission went out the window when he ended up doing that. So on another note, I explained to my client exactly what happened. I told them that I was in full agreement with the commission and you, Kevin, out there as to what had happened and what the outcome should be. So you'll get no qualms from me on that end of it. Now, in order to stabilize, my feeling is that the stabilization that has to occur right now would be basically just go in there and put down some hay mulch and possibly see the exposed slope until we are through with the order of conditions on to that note. So that way there's no machine work, no nothing, just go out there and hand spread some hay out there to help stabilize the slope, possibly some jute mesh as well, just to hold down the hay and to plant it with at least some ryegrass, because the ryegrass will actually germinate in the type of season we're in. So I want to be upfront and let everybody know that I too was disappointed by the contractor after he started before us having the pre-construction meeting and actually laying out the hay sock out there, because it was supposed to have been done in small amounts, as I explained to the board. And I wanted to be there, or a representative from my firm to be there throughout the whole construction to make sure that this would not occur, and it unfortunately happened. So I'm extremely disappointed on that end. Now, as far as the funds to EPG, I relayed the message to my client, and he told me that he was going to be getting a check over to the commission. It should be there this week to replenish the funds, so that way we can continue.
Did we lose you,
On
John?
that end of it.
Okay.
No, I'm here.
Okay, I might have just lost it for a second. So,
Oh,
so more important, I do appreciate your candidness, and I do appreciate your honesty, because what you stated does reflect of our interaction out there. You know, still have utter disappointment, not necessarily again in you. It's not personal. It's just in how this went down, and of course, I think the neighbors are also extremely disappointed in how this went down. And so I would ask if you have plans to do this stabilization, right? And additionally, John, I think that we talked about there was some, and I'll use the term loosely, some debris, but I mean that more. It was a lot more of nature's debris, some brush and all that was kind of pushed over out of the way, and that it may have fallen over onto the into that little drainage area, if you will, to the east of the property between yourself and the next door neighbors. That needs to be cleaned up. I personally would like to see a plan of how you're going to stabilize it. In the meantime, get out there and stabilize it. Okay. And I'm not saying we don't agree with that, but additionally, given the size and the maturity of those trees and the fact that on both RDAs, it was called out for that those things were not to be taken down. I would like to see a tree planting schedule, if you will, or plan to make up for. And quite honestly, I'm not talking about tiny trees here, trees of substance that are to provide the level of natural buffer, if you will, that already exists. And I'm not talking about replacing them with 40-foot trees, John, but at the same time, you can appreciate the fact that those trees, it was too, yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to belabor the point.
no, I agree wholeheartedly with you, and this is a conversation that I've already had with my client, because I too was disappointed in how it all happened, and I had already told him that part of the revegetation plan that we're currently working on will require him to put in some significant trees back there.
Okay.
We're thinking possibly doing more evergreen out there than what previously was, because evergreen, they're green all year long. So and my client, he likes evergreen more than your oaks and maples and whatnot. So we're actually working on that, and we're looking to plant at least as many as the contractor removed, if not a few added ones as well.
All right. And I think the way that you need to move forward with that, on the one hand, John, I think it would be easy, I guess, to tie it in with the current notice of intent, but at the same time, the current notice of intent is going under peer review. And just to be honest, there's probably going to be some changes that are going to have to be made relative to peer review, right? And this could take a long time, where at the end of the day, I'd like to see the stabilization and restoration take place a lot quicker. And so my thought process is, do we have you file a whole nother notice of intent relative to this? And that typically is what happens, John, right? Admittedly, under an enforcement action, you're required, and I think it even says it on the paperwork, that you're required to file a notice of intent with us by a specific date. We didn't put that on there because you're acting under a notice of intent as it is. But at the same time, I think it would be prudent to have a separate filing relative and reactionary to the enforcement action to address specifically those things, so that those can get addressed in a much quicker time frame, hopefully, and they can be addressed much quicker.
And actually, that's a kind of something I was going to bring up as well, because I know in the past that we have provided to other clients that have done work without permits or whatever, basically a notice of intent for the restoration work while the main body of the work is under review.
Yeah, and I think that's the way I'd like to go. And and John, we don't take any pleasure in causing anybody to have to spend any more money. But at the end of the day, admittedly, John, there were mistakes that were made, and none of them were made by the Conservation Commission in this instance, short of not checking to make sure that there was an advertisement. But that certainly didn't take the trees down, even if there was an advertisement or not for it. The action took the trees down. So I would say this. How quickly do you think you can get a notice of intent application into our hands?
We can probably get that to you by around Tuesday with the restoration plan.
Okay. Don't know if that'll give us enough time to get it in and advertised for our March 22nd meeting in May. So I would like to see that if we could get that Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll even give you the 2 weeks. We don't have to do it on the 26th. But in the meantime, you've been ordered in the enforcement order to go out there and stabilize that. So let's do what you have presented to the board tonight. Let's go out there with a jute mat. Let's go out there with hay. Put your rye seed down. We're going into spring. Let's get that stabilized. If there's any loose stones over there, whatever, let's get the debris that was pushed over off the side there. Let's get that cleaned up. And then we can work on the tree plantings and improving that stuff through the notice of intent. So let's move away from that a little bit. There has been a question, and this goes back to the overall notice of intent that was filed there. We've had some, the neighbors have had some questions, and so did I. You originally proposed a retaining wall to be installed around the entire perimeter, right? And we have come off of that, right? That is no longer a proposal, correct? You're no longer proposing to do a full depth reconstruction of the entire seawall, for the lack of a better term, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And so to answer the question of the residents who were concerned, that was the original plan that was submitted. Subsequent to that, through comment and concern and EPG's comments, I think those plans have been changed. And if we don't already, if we could have it, either Victoria, you could take the page that has it, the new proposed detail for construction on the wall. If we could put that separately within that on a PDF, or John, if you could provide us with a separate plan that shows what the new plan is. I think that will eliminate some of the concerns of not only the board but the neighbors. I get where they're coming from because they go back and look at that. But that detail is from August 17th of 2020, and and changes have been made to that.
Yes.
So if we don't already have just a detail of the new construction or repair of the wall, let's make sure we get that either up on our website so people can see it.
Yeah, because the boat ramp is also, that has been removed from the
Right.
plans as well.
Right.
The wall has been foreshortened because there are a couple of spots up near the ends and everything that the wall is still in a pretty good shape. So yeah, so all that's been revamped.
Okay, so if we could provide further, detail of that, like I said, if Victoria, if you've got it, we'll make sure we put it on there. Adam, I've kept you around. How's the progress going? Excuse me, with the review relative to the Rivers Protection Act? I know there's a lot of concern with that.
I mean, given the funding issue, we hadn't really started the review on this one.
Okay.
So I can't really comment definitively on it.
That makes perfectly good sense. So John, if we can, so it's vital that we get some funds. So otherwise, John, at the end of the day, if we're not provided funds and a review can't take place, then we're forced to act upon the
Right.
application that is submitted to us. And I'm not trying to be in a threatening manner, John. It's just the reality of it. I think you'd agree. So those two things, let's work on getting that funding so we can get that peer review done. Otherwise, your client's going to be in jeopardy of having us move forward on a vote as is. And let's get that notice of intent to us relative to the work that is required under the enforcement order.
All right.
Okay. Is there anybody here from the general public or anybody from the board that has any questions or comments about this?
Mr. Chairman, Mike O'Neill, representing the neighbors.
How are
Lori
you,
Riley
Mr.
and,
O'Neill?
yes, lawyer with.
So how are you, sir?
Just fine, Mr. Chairman. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Okay. Yes, I'm an attorney with McGregor and Legere, represent the neighbors, Lori Riley and Jeff Medeiros, who are direct abutters. We have said before that we do not object to the house, but we do object to the large barn and the garage, which does not comply with the Rivers Protection Act. I know I'm getting ahead of myself. Talking about the work that was done under the emergency order. Now, we're pleased, of course, that you've stopped, that this work has been stopped. We note that this emergency work was supposed to be repair of the wall, and then we had trees coming down, huge trees. So I don't understand how that could happen. But so more fundamentally, emergency order can only be given to protect the health and safety of people, directed by a government agency. Now, this was purely a protected property, which is not a legitimate use of the emergency order power. So if the emergency order, if the RDA has not already been vacated, I would ask the commission to vacate it.
That's a very good idea, Attorney O'Neill. I think I was just lacking at the beginning of this. I was just lacking the word I was looking for.
Yes.
And so that is a good idea. Not to dive into the weeds on the emergency orders and all.
Yes.
But you're right. I think in light of what has happened, I would, and this is the first time in my 20-year career that we've ever had to do this. So I'm going to take it upon your counsel, sir, that
Yes.
we do in fact have the authority to do this, and I believe we do. So
Yes, you do.
I will entertain a motion to vacate the approval of the RDA request for the wall repair due to the fact that we had to issue an enforcement order and the exceedance of the RDA, and in light of the fact that I did not require it to be advertised. So I'll entertain that motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Motion made and supported. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Keith Mello.
Aye.
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Thank you again, Attorney O'Neill.
Yes.
We have letters, I think at least two from you expressing concerns of
Yes.
the neighbors. We have forwarded those to environmental partners.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, I think they will be reviewing all those things in addition to what the other things they're going to do. And they always take our comments and the comments of the abutters into account when they're reviewing that. So while we have Adam on the line, Adam, just if you haven't received the most recent letter, then we'll make sure it's off to you. But there are some very, very real concerns relative to the Rivers Protection Act that I think need to be addressed through your review, and I know you guys will do that. So,
But yeah, if we don't have it, I'll coordinate with Victoria to make sure we have it.
perfect. Thank you very much.
Chairman, if
Attorney
I
O'Neill,
may-
do you have anything else to add?
Yes, I'd just like to add one thing. In environmental, in EP's previous November 5th letter, they pointed out the need for either Chapter 91 and/or Army Corps of Engineer approval. The fact that this is going to be work in the river, necessarily is going to be work in the river. So just a heads up that that should be done, that should be underway during this process, so that we don't, when we get to the notice of intent, we don't have to say you haven't gotten the Chapter 91 approval.
Yep.
If I may,
Sure, please.
Chapter 91 and Army Corps review is for work within navigable waters. We're not doing any work within the navigable waters, so therefore, Chapter 91 license is not required, nor is an Army Corps review of it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I respectfully disagree. I say the Asona River is a navigable river.
Well,
All right. Well,
it is, but we're not doing work within the water body itself.
at the end of the day, so we're not arguing this over and over. Both good points, and I don't know the definitive answer on that, but I do know that EPG will review it for that.
Yeah.
And I'll instruct you right now, Adam, as soon as we get the funds to commence this review, that part of that be that the applicability of the Chapter 91 waterways permit requirement. And I say to do that probably up front is so that, to the Attorney O'Neill's point, if it is going to be a requirement, then let's get them started on that application process, or let them be able to try to defend that if they have to. I'd rather not wait till the end and then have that outstanding. So if there's,
Understood.
okay, thank you. If there's nothing else, Attorney O'Neill, I will
Thank you.
open it up. All right, thank you very much too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other abutters here, or anybody, a person of interest that has a comment on this? Nobody's waving, Victoria? Are you muted, Victoria?
I was.
Okay, nobody's waving, we're good? All right.
No.
So, John, I think you know where we stand with this. I look forward to receiving that notice of intent, but I also look forward to seeing somebody get out there in the very near future to fortify the siltation control and get that thing stabilized going into the rainy season, please. So with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing. John, you think you'll have something for us by the 22nd?
Actually, I believe we already emailed a lot of the information over to you folks.
Okay.
And I think that we're just waiting on the funds from my client, which he told me he was going to bring over to you guys. And I thought he said it was yesterday, but I'm not 100% sure.
He might have
So
put it in the mailbox out front, and the mail might not have got it. It
Right.
could be there, maybe not.
So
All right. At the end of the day, there's no harm in continuing this to the 22nd. So I'll entertain a motion that we continue this to March 22nd, 5 o'clock via Zoom.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion made and supported. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Keith Mello.
Aye.
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Motion passes unanimous. So see you on the 22nd. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
all right.
All right. All right. I'm going to move quickly here. We have back to number 4. We have a continued notice of intent for 6 Quiticus Ave. This is again one of those that I called to order at our last meeting, but unfortunately we couldn't do anything that night because of the posting of the agenda. So I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing notice.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
The motion made second. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Keith Mello.
Aye.
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin Demaris, aye. Motion passes unanimous. Okay, so again, folks, if you're looking and interested in this, go onto our website, Conservation Commission Filings, and we should have the plans on there. There they are, 6 Quiticus Avenue. This is for the construction of a single-family home, septic system, and I believe a garage. Do we have the applicant's representative here?
Yes, good evening. Corey Medeiros from SciTech, CEC for Diamond Development Group LLC. As we heard, proposals to construct the a single-family dwelling. The garage is attached. The only reason I mention this is project was issued in order of conditions, I believe, sometime fairly recently. This would take care of, or this would, that particular proposal was never built, so this would take the place of that. There are, as mentioned, a portion of the work is taking place within the 100-foot buffer zone to the bordering vegetated wetland, which is located to the right side of the plan. And we're also in the outer reaches of the 200-foot riverfront area. The applicant has proposed to construct the retaining walls. If you're looking at the plan, the retaining walls on the sides of the existing or proposed dwelling, as well as a pump chamber, is now incorporated into the septic system, which was not in the approved plan. So what this allows us to do is minimize the amount of impact, and it also draws us further away from the riverfront area, which will lead us into the alternative analysis. So essentially by doing that, we're holding the maximum distance that we can off the property line, or minimum distance off the property line to the left, which is giving us the most separation from the riverfront area. So any other placement of the dwelling or grading would shift us further into the riverfront area. So I believe we've satisfied that requirement. And if anybody has any questions about the plan or the proposal, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you for that. You're right. This was unfortunately significant enough derivation from the original plans that were approved that it required a whole new filing. So, and you are within the River Protection Act area, so I have read the alternative analysis, and I agree that, and again, this lot was created prior to the River Protection Act. Was that 96?
Yes.
Yeah, so this lot would be eligible for some exemptions under that, under the act, and you provided the alternatives analysis. Single family home with a septic system. Septic system is outside the buffer zone, if I'm not mistaken.
Indeed,
Yep.
it is.
Yeah, and so the only work within the buffer zone is the part of the house, septic tank, and associated grading. And it looks like you're raising the actual, you're raising the elevation for construction of the home. Is that correct?
Yeah, slightly. I believe the old plan was a tiny bit higher, and it carried that grade all the way through. We are the slab elevation is a little bit lower, so that allows us to bring in a little bit less fill around the foundation. So yeah, the foundation's lower.
Okay. You're serviced by town water, which is why, well, it will be city water from the city of New Bedford, but that's why there is no well on here, right?
Absolutely.
All right, and you've got siltation control, and that's identified by the hashed line. Is that correct?
You are correct. That's running all the way along the side of the house, just outside the edge of the proposed grading. I don't know, it's roughly, you want to figure about 70 feet off that wetland,
Yeah.
at its closest point. And it's all down gradient of the construction.
Right. Okay. Do we have any interested parties that are here to for this project? Anybody? Any abutters? No. Okay. That being said, this is a public hearing. Do we have a DEP file number on this?
We do. Would you like it?
You can send it over to us as long as we have it.
Perfect.
And this was outside natural heritage, right? There's no outstanding comment from natural heritage on this also, correct?
No, there are not.
All right. All right, well, kind of hard to argue with a single family home, right?
I certainly would hope so.
Okay, that being said, if there's no other public comment or other questions from the board, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion made.
Second.
Motion made and supported, no further discussion, roll call vote, Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Keith Mello.
Aye.
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin Demaris, aye. Passes unanimously. All right, I appreciate you providing the alternative analysis and keeping in good order with that. That being said, I will entertain a motion that we approve the plans as submitted.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion made, supported to approve the plans. There's no further discussion. Roll call, Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Keith Mello.
Aye.
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin Demaris, aye. Motion passes unanimous. So we'll get the paperwork drawn up. I'll sign it. We'll get it out to you. All right, Corey, you're here for the next two also, if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken.
yes, I am.
Okay, so 3 Locust, is that the next one, Victoria?
Yes.
All right, so 3 Locust Street, this is a public hearing for the construction of a single-family home and septic system. This is a notice of intent. I will call that public hearing back to order. Last we met, we had questions, and there were a couple of outstanding items. If you could address those outstanding items with us, that would be great.
Okay, Corey, again, for the record, Corey Medeiros, SciTech/CEC for 3 Locust Street. Okay, so since we last met, the outstanding issue on this lot was the riverfront analysis, which has been provided. Run through that real quick, essentially stating due to local Board of Health regulations, building regulations, the house is already shifted as far back or as far away from the 200-foot riverfront as it can be. We also offer that separating the actual river from this project is the constructed of Locust Street, which has all the drainage. So we believe that we've set that, or we've at least achieved that requirement just due to the fact of the placement of the house. Some of the other issues that were brought up were in the areas where we're getting close, or we at least cannot maintain a 25-foot no activity zone. Kevin offered up the idea of putting placards on the trees, notifying that there were areas of jurisdiction, and any work would require approval from the Freetown Conservation Commission. So there was a note added to the plan to that effect. Another one of the concerns was in the proposed tree line. So that's been widened out a little bit to actually more reflect what can actually be constructed. And there's also a little bit tightening up of the grading, which is going to allow the surface water coming down the driveway to not sheet flow over the driveway and more cleanly dissipate along the sides. So I believe that were all of the major issues that were brought up. If I've missed something, Chairman, please let me know. But I believe that those are all the issues, and I believe that they have been adequately addressed.
I believe that you're correct. I would just, and looking at the plan and the notes and the alternative analysis, I do believe that you have addressed what our previous concerns were. Just point a note, the placards, typically we'd ask that they be put on a post rather than put directly on a tree. Trees tend to fall, not to mention we don't need to be putting things on trees when we don't have to. So as long as that, that they're put on a post rather than a tree, that's not an issue.
That shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. Is there anybody here from the public or from the board that has any questions relative to this? All right, Victoria, nobody's trying to get our attention?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, that being said, then, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
second,
Motion made support to close the public hearing. Okay, if there's no further discussion, roll call vote, Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Keith Mello.
aye,
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Okay, that being said, I will entertain a motion to approve the plans as, with the revision date. What's the revision date on that, Corey? I just closed out of that screen.
Revision date on the plan is February 8th, 2021.
Okay,
Oh,
I'll entertain,
yeah. Hold on, let me make sure that I just want to double check that they both have the same date. Yeah, February 8th, 2021.
okay. That we approve the revised plans, revision date February 8th, 2021, including the alternatives analysis. I'll entertain that motion.
I'll make that motion.
second,
Motion made and supported. No further discussion. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Keith Mello.
aye,
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Motion passes unanimous. We'll get that stuff written up and we'll get it signed and get it out to you. Next on our agenda, I apologize if I'm moving quickly, but we're approaching 2 hours. So next on our agenda, continue notice of intent. This is for 39 Sammy's Lane. I will call that public hearing back to order. This is for the construction of a single-family home with septic system. Again, there were a couple of outstanding items. We had talked about this at our last meeting. If you could just briefly go over what those were and how you addressed them.
Yes, indeed. For the record, Corey Madera, CEC, on behalf of Fadi Henning, for the project on Sammy's Lane. When we last spoke, a couple of the issues drawn up were similar to the previous lot, had to do with the illustration of the proposed tree line. So that has been more clearly noted, as well as the erosion control line, which is that dash line just inside the tree line, or, obviously going to be set right at the proposed tree line. Additionally, there was also an issue brought up about the drainage of the driveway. So there have been swales installed on the driveway to help that more evenly dissipate across the driveway and into the two wetland systems, as opposed to run the length of the driveway. And then that same note, which I'm sure the chairman is going to have the same comments as he did in the last one, but the same exact note was added about in areas where a 25-foot no activity zone would not be maintained, that the placards be affixed. So obviously your order of conditions will reflect that be put on posts as opposed to bang or nailed into the trees. So I believe
is
that
correct.
that's all the issues that were brought up, and I believe that those were all adequately addressed as well.
Yes, and you were like I said, you were the luckiest person in the world, because your proposed work is just outside the Rivers Protection Act, so you don't need to file.
Hey, when you're good, you're good.
I know, right? So at the end of the day, I will agree with you that those things have been addressed on the plan. I will note that you do have an extensive siltation control line that goes and carries out through the street, and I'm assuming that's because it works in concert with the proposed construction and previously approved construction for the road.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's an extension, and it's joining in right at the base of that driveway is where the
the curb cut there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, is there anybody here from the general public that's any questions, comments, or concerns? Anybody from the board? Again, we looked at this last time, and those were the only minor issues we had. If not, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion made.
second,
Second. Motion made and supported to close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Keith Mello.
aye,
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. So we'll get that written up, and again, the condition will be on there, that those must be put on posts rather than trees. So thank you for your patience with that, Corey. I know, I didn't do it on purpose, but it ended up your three were last, so.
Hey, I
Sorry
would have
about
more strenuously objected to being pushed, but I didn't realize it was a solar and a neighbor
Yeah.
dispute.
Well, hey, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Hey, that's all right. Maybe tomorrow will be my day.
There you go. All
Thank
right,
you so
thanks
much.
again.
Have
Yeah,
a
you're
pleasant
welcome.
evening, guys.
You also.
Thank you.
Just stick with me, guys. We just got a couple more things here. Number 9, request to extend the notice of intent submittal deadline. This is for 218 Middleborough Road. This is in response to another enforcement action. It was brought to the board's attention that at the location 218 Middle Road, that there was work done, in fact, within the buffer zone to a wetland. I did a subsequent inspection, and we issued an enforcement order, and we had asked that a notice of intent be provided to our office by a certain date. And Victoria, you can clarify or tell me what those dates were. The applicant has reached out initially through an attorney, and subsequent to that, we received an email asking for an extension of approximately, what did you say, was it 30 days, if I remember correctly, Victoria?
Yes.
Okay. 30 days effective from today's meeting date, or from the effective due date of the actual enforcement action?
Well, we would be past the 30 days from the enforcement. So
All right.
30 days from the meeting.
Okay, I would say that to make it cleaner, that when did the enforcement action, when was the 30 days up? I know they contacted us before that, so.
I believe it was up by January 29th.
January 29th. I can appreciate them wanting another 30 days, but it would appear that they're already 30 days beyond that. So I would be more inclined to at least get some sort of submittal to our office, even if the plans are not complete, but some sort of submittal to our office to show a good faith effort by the applicant. So while I'm willing to give them a bit of an extension, call it a COVID extension, if you will, I'm not willing to go another 30 days. I think 15 days should be sufficient time for our office to at least receive some paperwork and a notice of intent application, so that we can start having advertising for the public hearing. So I would entertain a motion, unless the board feels otherwise, that we grant a 15-day extension from the date of the meeting tonight, and we go from there.
Kevin, I'll concur with your reasoning, and I'll make the motion for 15-day extension.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Keith. Motion's been made and supported. If there's no further discussion on that, I'll take a roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Keith Mello.
You realize 60,000's present at the meeting?
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris says aye. So that motion carries unanimously. Victoria, would you please reach out to the applicant both via
Mr.
email?
Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Sir,
the applicant, we're here.
We're in the
I
meeting.
apologize. I did not know that, sir.
You've been waiting since 5 o'clock.
And I've been talking since then, so I apologize.
We've been waiting for 30 days.
Sir, do you have anything to add? I apologize. Go ahead.
No work has been going on that property for well over 8 months. It's been at a standstill. And we received the letter late, and that's why we contacted the office to see if we could get an extension for at least 30 days. I've been trying to get some engineers involved, and I haven't had any calls back. I'm hoping to have some luck within the next week or so, hopefully, maybe 2 weeks. I don't know if the 15 days is granted enough time. I don't want to not be able to perform within the 15 days. If I can get the 30 days, I know I should be able to get something to you within that time frame. It's just that I received the letter really late, and I tried to reach out so I could try to resolve a lot of the questions and a lot of answers that you might be looking for. The gentleman that did the work there, he just passed along. He's no longer
no longer alive, and none of the work has been going on that property since he pulled out 8 or 9 months ago, 7 months ago. He was supposed to come back to finish up, and here we are today.
Well, to be fair, sir, we're here today because the work was commenced without without a permit, right? So we get beyond that, and then you're saying it took 8 months. God bless you, or it was done 8 months ago. We only recently heard about it in the last couple of months. At least it was brought to my attention in the last couple of months. So I can appreciate the fact that your contractor's passed away, and my condolences to. But at the end of the day, the work was initiated without a permit. So that in and of itself was the violation. And I don't have the dates in front of me. I'm not in the office right now. But I know that we have the dates that we sent it out to you. It was either registered mail or certified mail. It was picked up. It was noticed by your attorney, I think. Emil is an attorney, if I'm not mistaken.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
He's not? Okay. So a representative for you, Emil, I don't know who that is, but reached out to us on your behalf
Yes.
and was communicating with us. And I can appreciate the fact that you are having a hard time finding an engineer, but at the same time, you've been given adequate time in my book. You've gone 30 days over the original date.
We didn't get the letter till after the date. For almost 45 days after your order was almost out, to be discontinued, I guess.
So it's your assertion that we sent out the registered letter, or we sent the mail to you and you did not receive it for 45 days.
That's correct. Roughly 35, 45 days. When we called, the day we called is the day we got the letter.
Is there and no, I don't like doing litigation. I'm not getting into that stuff right now.
No, I wouldn't. I don't like doing it either.
Yeah, is there, and I don't like to litigate things like this during a meeting. But my point is, I find it hard to believe, and I don't know if any other board members have, that it took that long to get to you. Was it a situation you were out of country? You didn't research? I don't know.
I don't know if you're familiar with the mail system though, since this COVID started.
No, I can appreciate that.
Ridiculous.
I can appreciate that.
It's ridiculous. I mean, I've gotten checks that were mailed to us that showed up literally 3 months after they were mailed. I've got stuff that I've never received. The mail system, they're trying their hardest to do what they need to do, but they're not. There's a lot of stuff going on with the mail system. Not just me, there's other people. I'm pretty sure there's at least another dozen people that I know if they have the same problem. But it's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. All it is just letting you know where I stand.
I understand. And you're right. But at the end of the day, I would hope that you appreciate our position here. We don't like to be heavy-handed, sir. We don't like to come off, but unfortunately, this was not our doing. It lies upon you. It's your responsibility because you're the property owner. And so I would just politely ask. We have a meeting on the 22nd, right? And that's today's the 3rd, so the 22nd would be 18 days from now. I think even you, whether you could find an engineer or not, even you could fill out at minimum a notice of intent application, get it to us in response to that, and we can start the process. And I will also offer that if you have questions on how to fill it out and questions on what to do with that, we could assist you in just showing you how to fill out the application to a certain degree. We can't do the work for you, but we can show you where the information needs to be. And quite honestly, at the end of the day, I think that'll go a long way to show us a good faith on your part. Because admittedly, we don't know that there was trouble. We were unaware of trouble with getting you this paperwork. And I'm going to assume that there was a tardiness issue, but at the same time, I think you need to do something to prove to us that you're working to that end. So I will amend that. Victoria, keep me straight here. We did not vote on that motion, correct? No. All right. So I would grant that by the 22nd, by the time of our meeting on the 22nd, that we should have a notice of intent application provided to our office, understanding that may be some outstanding items that we will require during the public hearing process, but to exhibit a good faith effort on the applicant's part, I will entertain a motion that we require the applicant and give them an extension up until March 22nd. And if that does not happen by that time, then we will have all options available to us at that point in time.
Well, that's fair enough. I can agree with that. And Bill's willing to help us out with showing me how to fill out paperwork. If I can't get anybody, I'll do it myself.
All right. So I'll entertain that motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion's made and supported. If there's no further discussion, we'll take a roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Kevin Damaris. I'm sorry, Keith Mello.
Aye.
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Motion carries unanimously. Again, sir, I apologize. I don't have the screen, so I didn't know that you were there.
Oh,
no
problem. No apology necessary.
All right, please reach out to our office. She works in the afternoon. You can leave a message or via email, and I will ensure that we can at least get you on the right road as far as getting that application and stuff filled out for us.
Okay,
So,
I appreciate your help.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate your patience. So, moving right along, number 10, old business updates. We don't have any new business. We don't have any. If I can get a motion on the minutes, and I did sign the bills. If anybody has a problem with the bills, let me know, but I don't think there should be. We have meeting minutes from 2/8 and 2/22. If anybody feels comfortable making a motion, if not, we can wait till the next meeting.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion made and supported to approve the minutes as submitted for 2/8 and 2/22 of 2021. No further discussion. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Keith Mello.
Aye.
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. Gentlemen, thank you very much. I apologize. We had a rather lengthy, but we took care of a bunch of stuff tonight. So hopefully going forward, we'll get to our normal selves. Everybody, be safe. And again, thank you for being here tonight. And look forward to seeing you guys soon.
All right, and
Thanks
I'll make a
again.
motion that
I
we
need a-
adjourn.
That's what I was looking for. Motion to adjourn. I need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn has been made and supported. Roll call vote. Charlie Sullivan.
Aye.
Charlie Sullivan, aye. Keith Mello.
Aye.
Keith Mello, aye. Kevin Damaris, aye. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Victoria, and
Take care.
we'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great night,
All right.
everybody.
We'll see you.
Be safe.
I'll even meet Victoria in person someday.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, be safe, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Take
Bye,
care.
everybody. Bye. Bye.